Aaron was busy today.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so, the November 5th, 2020, 1:30 meeting for the governance of, the Ulster County, Industrial Development Agency will now come to order. We'll call it to order. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You guys have copies of the minutes in front of you from the August 4th, 2020 meeting?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh, roll call. I apologize, Rose.
Trying to make sure you're
I
here.
don't want to steal your thunder.
Michael Ham, are you here?
Here.
Diane Iden? Yes. Richard Jones?
Here.
Where'd he go? Thank you.
Okay, we'll now review the minutes from August 4th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the August 4th meeting?
Motion to pass minutes?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business.
Okay. So the overall topic of project compliance is obviously old business, but we added in here, there are some outstanding payments due. We had given people, I think 90 days and then 60 days or vice versa, something along those lines. All of these payments were due, August 31st. These are the annual fees, and they're not paid.
Okay, so the Ulster NH Realty, the first part of the fee, the first 100, half the 150K was paid?
Yes, and the 75, the reason it's still in current, I can't make a difference, that's not due till January 1st.
Okay.
So I
Just make note of that.
yeah, I just
I'm
wanna,
sorry,
I'm
Jeff.
glad you brought that up, thank you.
That was the question.
I wasn't
That was
even
the topic
looking
of
in
the day.
that column, yeah, no, they're compliant, that's not due till January 1st. It's the other ones over here, ARHC, I don't think we're going to get that.
No,
Because
that's,
that's the old owners of Kingston Medical Properties, and we can't get a human, because the person that was in charge was an attorney for a law firm that's no longer there. We've tried certified return receipt, it comes back to us. We've tried emails, they get kicked back to us. We've even gone as far as Googling the firm and trying to get somebody, and we can't get someone to care.
Golden Hill Acquisition LLC, is that Dr. Baki?
That's,
Dr. Baki,
that's
yeah.
Baki.
Well, I would ask governance further down the line to take a look at, none of these transactions can go through until we're made whole from the prior ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, I was gonna ask for the same thing, but what did happen today, literally 15 minutes I think before I left, is Golden Hill called and asked for us to send the original invoice because they don't have it, because we just send statements once a month. So I think they might pay, but I agree with you because that's obviously the issue with Kingston Medical.
I guess what I'm getting at is that prior to signing off on a different pilot or a deviated pilot for Ulster NH, it won't go through until everything's been satisfied. Would you say, Chair?
I would agree.
Yeah, I think that should definitely be what we do going forward.
You want a motion? All back fees have to be paid.
I
You want a
don't
motion?
need a motion. I think it's just standard operating procedure.
It's good business, yeah.
Yeah,
They owe us money.
yeah, it's going forward.
If
We'll
that's the
watch
thing
to
that
make
holds
sure
it up,
that
I'm sure
happens.
you'll get your money quicker, right?
Yeah.
It's a process.
Rose, help me out, Kingston Hospitality, is that? Who is
Hotel?
that?
I believe that one is the one behind CVS, in the
On
town.
Ulster Ave?
Yeah,
So it's a hotel?
Hampton Inn.
That's a Hampton.
Oh,
Hampton.
That's
I was
the
trying to
Hampton.
think,
Yeah,
there's
that's
too
right.
many of them, I
Huh?
can't.
The one down bottom of the hill from the mall one, it's behind CVS over by Taco Bell.
Okay.
So far, we've only been sending the monthly statements, it's only been a couple months since they were due, but I'm thinking I'll also make some phone calls.
Okay.
Is this the same ownership group?
I can double check that. I don't think it's the same name.
I thought we collected from Viking, you know?
So, no, on their, if anything was in their late fee and stuff, this isn't their late fee. This is the new fee that was due this year. The Viking, there's some discrepancy here. They think they don't have to pay it because they say that we no longer have the ownership on their property because the pilot is done, but they also have a bond. And
You know-
so we're going back and forth on that because we still have the bond. So I've been in touch with Joe Scott about that
So
one.
for the record, I'm gonna bring you back, I know this is probably a bore, but I hate to bore you. But last January, February of 2019, this is exactly the discussion I had with Viking.
I
Give
had
me
it
my
too.
data.
Yes.
We didn't have this kind of fee, but give me my data. No, I don't have to do it, the pilot's over. I said, you still have a bond, look at your legal documents. I finally had to get Joe Scott on the phone with this guy and myself.
But what
I
was
had the
Joe's
same
conclusion
conversation
on
with
how much
Frank.
is left on the bond?
I can tell you what it is.
Okay,
But it's the same thing he's saying now, he said
Okay.
back in
How
January.
much does it
February.
cost us for Joe Scott?
He owes us the money.
No, I'm asking a question, do you wanna spend, I don't care who it is, I wanna get the money.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where it's de minimis.
yeah,
If somebody owes you 1,000 and you're spending 1,500,
well, that's what I.
nobody needs a I'm gonna show you moment, you know? This is why, prior to this stuff, because these guys always come back, Rick. Somebody always comes back, he said, oh, listen, there's an issue here, so,
And you have the total on those three?
I absolutely agree. It's annoying that it's the
Yeah.
same story.
Okay.
I just had to
it's the
approve it myself.
nickel and diamond that really takes away from, what this group is looking to
And
do.
it's kind
They
of
also got
insulting
their
to the
attorney
whole
involved
county.
though, too.
This
Yeah.
is
Deal with
Croce,
that
Croce,
It's the son now though.
I mean, I see that kid. I see the old man.
I think his father's in Florida mostly.
Either that or he's at the business office at Woolwich.
Yeah.
This is how to collect numbers, isn't it?
Pardon me?
It's in New Paltz.
We've lost it, right?
Yeah, and we had the same conversation with Randall when I was there.
Oh, is it part of our UTEP that the clock starts ticking if we have to go to council for these things?
Yes, Kim, yeah,
Okay.
it's part of the closing document.
Well, maybe we should make it clear that if it gets that far, we're not gonna waive that. If it's just unreasonable, if they're just refusing to acknowledge, what do you think?
Yeah, he actually brought his counsel into it, I got an email from his counsel. Alright, so he made some folders here. $1.6 million is left on the bond. It doesn't mature until 2023, so this will keep being an issue for several years. Oh, I'm sorry, that was what the original bond, it's $800,000 left. It's a good rate.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. From what I remember.
So Joe Scott said, cause I said, well, if we did pull out from being, because he said that there was paperwork filed that we no longer are on their deed. I said, well, if that's the case, then that would have been a mistake, wouldn't it? And so Joe Scott was going to look into it and see if that had happened. And I sent him the documents that Viking had sent.
Why he thinks the language says is after we extinguish the pilot, they're no longer responsible. He thinks he has that in writing?
No, he thinks that we filed the paperwork with the county to remove ourselves from his property. But we
Well, who
shouldn't
would've filed
have
the
done that
paperwork?
if that did happen. I don't know that it did,
Well, who would have filed the paperwork?
Joe Scott.
So
So then
if
I
we
had
filed
to
the
reach out to Joe
paperwork-
Scott about it.
If it's been filed, then we don't have an argument, it's on our end.
So
We
we're
do have
waiting
the
on,
issue that they still
waiting
have
on council to get back to us.
No, but they said it, the bond is waived because we filed the paperwork. Then what, I mean, we made the mistake. I'm not carrying water for,
No, but what Rose is saying, I guess we're gonna have to wait for Joe to get back to us and let us know.
what I'm getting at is if the paperwork's been
Oh,
filed.
no, if it's there,
we
it's
have
no harm, no
hold,
foul, right, I get it.
Then,
So we also have a problem if they have this $800,000 bond that's several years and we've taken ourselves off the property if that happens.
okay, but we've taken ourselves off the property.
Well, let's get a definitive answer from
Yeah, cause
Scott.
that'll be a problem for ADO as well.
Mhm.
So that's what's going on in Golden Hill. So I'm gonna make, the other issue is Gardner Library. They just don't wanna pay it because it should have been closed out. They refinanced 2 of their bonds, not properly. So we don't have bonds anymore, but we're still on it because they never followed through to do the proper closeout. I've been trying to get Joe and Ariel to do the closeout all year, and I've had multiple phone calls where they want it closed out. Joe Ariel doesn't wanna do the closeouts now, he asked that Joe Scott handle them. So I wanted to run that by the board, because that's also at a different rate.
Let me ask you something, does the
That happened.
refi have to be vetted by the board?
Yes, should not have been done the way it happened, yes.
So the
was
refi
their
has to
fault,
be,
yeah.
the refi has to be vetted by the board.
It wouldn't have been vetted by the board, it would have just closed this out. We
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
have been part of it.
the board would have had to have known
Yes,
and
Yes.
said, and nodded yes,
And approved it.
and approved it.
When they did the
when they
refi,
refied them, they throw us off of it entirely, we wouldn't have to approve anything, because we're
when they
not part of it.
refied it, the bank they did it with, which I believe was Key, if I
Cuban.
recall.
Yeah, but
They didn't
Jimmy's
do a
saying
proper-
that they have to come to us
Have
to
to
even get a
notify us
refi.
to do the refi,
Yeah.
don't they?
They have to
That's right.
notify
We're
the
first
board.
on, we're
Right.
first on the list.
We were first lien
So again,
holder, if you will.
Another thing that somewhere along the line,
That's right.
prior to you, the ball got dropped. And what Joe Ariel wants to do and doesn't want to do, doesn't really have a whole lot to do with it, does
Jimmy,
it?
just a slight twist to
We
that.
have to close it out.
Key Bank mortgaged the property, didn't do the proper title search. If they had, they would have found out that the IDA had a lien. They didn't do it, and they allowed the mortgage to be placed on the property.
So what do we
in
do,
front of
hold,
us.
hold Key Bank up to the light?
We're stuck,
I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
we're
listen,
stuck. We
So
should-
this may be another issue that,
And I
Just-
also did
just
wanna
close
say,
it out.
I don't
It's
think
on
I
us.
ever got back to you guys about it because we haven't met yet. I did double check with ABO. ABO and the Office of the State Comptroller actually, both of them agree, we cannot stop reporting on them until we're off the property. So we have to close these things out properly.
tell you, government's gonna have a busy end of the year, house cleaning.
So my suggestion is the same as yours, Jim, is just close it out and get us off it.
Right, but if we do it, then we pay for it. And so Joe Ariel was the one that was tasked to do it, and he doesn't wanna do it, and that's
Well,
at a
tell
much
him I
different
want
rate
something
than
in
Joe
writing as
Scott.
to why he doesn't wanna do
What
it.
is it?
He feels it would be easier because Joe Scott has all the paperwork, where Joe Scott has said he doesn't need to do it because
Time
they
out,
could ask
time
him.
out, time out, time out. Chair, may I?
May you,
Okay,
please.
Yeah.
You tell him, we want something in writing, why, and when he's paying us, then he can tell us what he wants to do. While we're paying him,
He's an employee of the board.
while
I'm
we're
aware.
paying him, and it's not like Joe Scott's gotta put it on a horse and ride it down from Albany, right?
Come on, you never
Come on,
know,
come on,
Jimmy.
come on, it's not even
Send.
fun.
It's sent. We do it every day.
These are internal things that, you know, that the best interest of all, and diligence, we turn around and there's a roadblock, and it seems to go backwards, not to the current board. It's not reflective of you.
No, I understand.
All right, so let's
I
do
do,
things
I
to
do
get it right.
have, I do have it in writing, because I have forwarded the emails.
Okay.
He's an at-will employee. Remind him of that, and you can put it in writing and put my name on it. If that's okay with the other board members.
It's easy to do, I'll do it for half the price. It's just
You're
paperwork.
a killer.
Rick already knows more about that one than they do, so.
No, okay, so that's it on the fees of what's outstanding. I will personally call Kingston Hospitality and then also just follow up with, the projects.
Okay.
So these were just copies of the statements, so you knew what they had owed us. Let's see.
Oh,
That's from- compliance, it's just an update. Everybody is now compliant as far as paperwork, ever since the last round of letters went out.
Good.
Amthor was supposed to come before us about their job numbers and never showed up for the meeting.
Yeah, but they were too wide.
But they got us the rest of their information.
I saw a while
It's
ago.
okay. No, they got us the rest of their information, and so now we have to decide what we wanna do with each of these, if anything, because we have their information, but you can see the percent of the jobs promised is still below the 80% threshold on some of them, right? So the issues, you can't see it on here, you could have seen it in the ones they emailed, because I don't have color printer. Amthor is an issue.
Rick, can you, Chair, would you mind if I suggest something? Could you work with the CEO and the chair and along with Diane to come up with some sort of sliding scale as far as clawbacks or a reduction in benefit based on job?
That's-
And less is more, just something that will get people's attention. And then you can expedite it, you don't have to turn it into a 3-month thing.
Make it automatic.
The closing documents have a percentage of clawback already in them, each one is different, that's something that's in our policies to talk
Yeah, I've
about
seen
today or
your-
next time anyway.
Yeah.
We don't have a specific policy and it's been just done on a per project basis, so we need to have a policy for that. But as far as clawback or changing, the pilot
benefit?
structure,
Yeah.
we don't have
Recapture.
something that we would do because it's at our discretion, so we can claw back based on certain percentages, or we can try to work with the projects like we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
to figure out,
Well, like
what to
take
do
it,
going
let's
forward.
take it for instance, the fellow who had the hotel,
Yes,
or better yet, the guy with the boutique hotels.
It's a greenhouse.
No, the boutique hotels up here
Oh,
in
the
Kingston,
Kingsleys.
you know, told us about COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we all know COVID didn't start till 2020, so where are your 2019 numbers?
Well, it's not even that, where's your 2018?
Yeah, where's your 18?
You know, your best efforts, business is a roll of the dice, but to come in here and, you know, you're kind of somewhat trying to insult the intelligence of this board when that happens. And I think honestly, I think when you reduce a pilot, that's a bigger, you know, it's like a contractor who's out there, doesn't do everything he's supposed to do when you pull his bond.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants that, because that follows you around forever. So, you know, you can sit them down, you can come up with a couple of scenarios, Chair, if I may. You can come up with a couple of scenarios and give them an option of one of the two, or we're simply going to, you know, we'll give you the option to do what you want to do, but something's got to be done.
Mike and I have discussed each of these and we had an idea for,
There's a plan laid out. I think everybody was pretty much
for each.
roundabout in that one, so.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Kingsley first, that's the next one in our order here.
Well, do you wanna start with Amthor?
Amthor, what do you wanna go in order off the, our
Oh, I
list?
was looking at the list, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You're on
Let's go.
It
page
was on
14,
this,
right?
on
That's okay.
page
14.
14.
We can go to Amthor.
I'm sorry, you were using the agenda.
I
That's
am
smart
using
too.
the agenda.
That's smart.
I'm using the agenda. Yeah, we can start with Amthor Welding to begin with, okay?
So that's not a pilot, it's just a
It's just a bond.
and we can recall the bond, meaning they would be forced to refinance.
How much is the bond?
You should check with Joe Ariel on that, right?
Yes.
On the bond, so just so everybody's familiar though, they, after the last letter of being non-compliant with us, in that we would be moving to, you know,
23.
to put them back on the tax rolls. They brought everything up to date, didn't they, Rose?
Yes, they did finance.
They brought everything up to date,
Yeah,
so,
Speaks volumes.
September 30th, we got the last bit of information from the finance. But it's still, I mean, obviously, it's still unacceptable. It's 6 months after I had to give it to the EO.
I think we should, I hate digging businesses, because we're in the business of insurance businesses.
correct. But,
But they're getting out of compliance.
and Rose, just so the board, the complete board knows,
It's
how
800,000.
many years were they out of compliance?
I can only, so it's hard, this is the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
From what I can see, the last few years, they were out of compliance. but we don't actually know if those numbers were accurate because we didn't do the CPA verification then.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it's been the last several years.
How many
As
years have you
in-
been with them?
08, I think,
So-
or 09.
Last 3 years? 3 years, right?
At least the
At least
3
3
years
years.
were, yeah.
I just make a recommendation that we pull the bond.
And we won't have to deal with trying to have them be compliant either.
I agree with that recommendation.
I mean, yeah, we had to wait for them to get us the documentation this year, we had to wait.
You would be issued the prior year too, right?
It's, what were the manpower hours that were included just to get them to where they are?
I just have a question, how often have we pulled bonds when people have not been?
I don't know.
I don't-
Not since I've been on the board, it's so that's 2 years.
I would give them till the end of the year, I would give them till the end of the year, and then there's absolutely no moving on it. If it's not done what needs to be done by the end of by the end of the calendar year, no ifs, ands, or buts, there'll be no negotiating after that.
They have to hire.
And I'm
Yes,
just
they
throwing that
have to
out
hire.
for governance.
Well, you know, I have no problem with that, I think,
They could choose not to do it, right, if they can't,
It's up
if
to
they
them.
can't do it, then it's refi, but then it's
the
a choice.
issue is hiring, they have to hire like 8 more people.
Well, their business is mostly in the Carolinas at this point, right?
That's where
Virginia,
Oh,
yeah.
That's where
Virginia.
he's doing most of his business.
Yeah, it just so happens that his business happens to be right parallel to my kind of business. And listen, I don't know where he's looking, but I have welder shops that are located not within 10-mile radius of his place. They seem to hire every day.
He told me
Now
that he was unable to hire.
He's talking about competing with the rates out of New York City,
Yeah.
which we don't have rates out of New York City. You know?
I think we should, may I make a motion, if you don't mind, I make a motion that we recommend that to the board, that we do a bond, we just pull the bond, whatever amount of time and money is still on it, and that's the end of it.
And not deal with telling. the
Well,
hiring.
not even give him a deadline, because it involves hiring people, and that's been the issue for the last 3 or 4 years. Doesn't appear as though he wants to do it. If he comes back and says, well, I'll have 8 more people on the payroll by the end of the year,
But how long are you gonna have them on the payroll? It's like the Apple business. You know, it all depends on what time of the year you go to a cold storage, you know, kind of thing,
Yeah, that's true.
you know.
so I think enough's enough.
You know, I kind of agree with what you're saying there, Rick, because if he can't hire 5 guys tomorrow or next week, how's he gonna hire, how many does he need, 17?
Not tell you the phone number.
And then it comes to, you know, we're running through it, can you prove to us that where have you been looking, how have you been doing it, this, and this?
Right, it's not 1 year, it's not COVID.
All right, so that's what you're gonna recommend.
Second,
You second it?
second.
Yeah,
I don't know.
okay, Rick, and Diane second, to pull the box. I was just looking, because I didn't have the number then, so what did, total jobs promised was 39 and 75% of 39, that is what he had.
So he has 20.
30 jobs.
So we have to hire 11 people.
Yeah.
By the end of the year. If we gave him money. By the end of the year.
And
it's not-
so that means, what's 75% of 39?
It's 30 is 75% of 40, so.
Smart. I'm so bad at math in my head
It's
anymore.
personal count 5.
I know, don't tell him. But what I was getting at was before the IDA came to him, he had 29 jobs. So he's not added a single job then by having.
And I haven't seen anybody that in the last few years that actually came up and mostly like the guy with the hotel, the guy with the greenhouse. Oh, I pay one guy $150 million a year, so I satisfied everything. It's not 10, 15 jobs.
Okay, and then, I'm sorry, was there all in favor yet? I wasn't on.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mary's, yeah, I
We
mean,
talked
there's
about
nothing to do on that. ARHC, it's Kingston Medical Properties prior owner, you just
Right,
have to
it's
let
gonna
it go and write it off.
That's a write-off.
And lesson learned, right? We don't close and move on, we don't let them change owners
That's right.
unless this is dealt with. Yep. Benedictine Hospital, we met with them already in front of the full board.
I just like to make
Understood.
now that we're in the meeting. I certainly agreed last time, hey, you're part of the community, you do great work, quote unquote, and I believe I said that. And, we're gonna work with you because it's an important element of the community. As I thought about it after the fact, and quite frankly,
I think this problem, that situation arose after we had that meeting.
it could have, I didn't go back to. I thought about the situation with the inpatient psychiatric services and the addiction services that they pull. And it looks as though it's going to be pretty permanent. They've asked New York State, and it appears as though, at least from what I can tell from the paperwork I was able to gather, that it was approved that they pull that service from Kingston, and that they, from Ulster County for that matter, they move it down to Poughkeepsie. So, look, they're in a business, they have to make money in order to continue to provide a level of service. On the other hand, if anything, that's one service that it seems to me that, given the trajectory of COVID and the problems that we're having in terms of mental health and addiction use and abuse, I simply like to say, look, you do what you gotta do, but there should have been, or there has been, a comedy between us, not comedy, but comity, C-O-M-I-T-Y, that existed, and I think by taking away this service, you've broken those bonds of understanding between, on this matter, between us and you. And so as a result, what can be done? City can't do anything for the most part, they can appeal to Albany, but the community has a bond existing with Benedictine, with WMC actually. And that bond gives them certain advantages and certain advantages. And it was based upon being part of the community. Well, it seems to me with this particular service, a very important service, that we shouldn't let it go unnoticed and simply say, look, do what you want to do, but we're going to do what we believe should be done, which is to break that bond on this particular matter, which you already broke by leaving and taking that service away, and not allow you to continue to have this bond at a particular, at the nice rate that you have.
Unfortunately, the court of law is not going to sit there and say, yeah, based on good faith and whatever, it's come to my knowledge that, or to my, on the light, that there were things put out that they couldn't do away with. They couldn't take out, going way back when Kingston Hospital went in with Westchester Medical or whatever, and what they say that they can do away with, they can do away with, but if it says that, if it doesn't say you can't do away with the psychiatric and the inpatient stuff for addiction, and look, listen, I embrace where you're coming from. Again, it's prevalent in my family, okay? But I don't think you can make it stick. I don't believe at the end of the day, that's why we have written contracts. I can bet that Kingston Hospital and Westchester Medical will be back here for something. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to share my opinion and say bad job on Westchester Medical's part.
And also, I think we brought up the original agreement with Kingston Hospital prior to it being Westchester Medical, but,
And what was it?
that was in it. It's not, there's nothing related in there that says that they could not drop that service.
I'm sure.
From a legality standpoint.
I'm sure contractually that we have a weak leg to stand on. I'm looking at a contract that goes beyond the words. I'm looking at the contract between them and the community in terms of providing the service. We didn't outline any of the services that they needed to provide or should provide.
No.
That's for certain, not just the addictive services and the mental health services, but all the other services. And I think the manner in which it was done, it would be temporary was the original thing that they said. They moved down in. They were trying to consolidate because of COVID. but then all of a sudden it became more than just temporary. And in spite of the entreaties of the various politicians and the various movers and shakers from the community, they decided that it's not in their best interest, their best business interest. From a business point of view, I'd almost have to say, yeah, I get it. From a community service point of view, and for something that goes beyond the letters, with the words of the contract, I would say you're not doing right by the community. What we do here at the IDA is on behalf of the community, and it goes way beyond, it's jobs, it's how many jobs you're creating at what rate. It's what are you doing to grow the health and welfare of the community. And this is, I think, an example of an entity that we gave advantage to with an IDA move, an IDA bond. I think it's something that we should simply say we intend to, certainly we can't do, we have to move it to the board, but I would like to move it to the full board to suggest that we pull bond. I think there's another year left. I don't believe it's much, it's a tail over $1 million.
But what would be the basis, I mean, what would you use for the
You'll
hardcore
win in the
basis
court
of?
of morality.
Yeah.
You'll win.
Morality wise, I agree 100%. I'm looking at what is the grounds, what are we gonna use for the grounds to
not
pull the bond?
They're not performing as per when we gave them the bond. When we gave them the bond, they were providing the services. They made changes to the services. By the way, I don't think they even told us when they consolidated.
The thing they have to perform under are the jobs. I mean,
They're under in terms of the jobs.
And I agree with what you're saying, Rick, right up
I don't know
until
if there's leg to
it's
it.
pulling the bond, because at that point, I don't think we have a leg to stand on there. And, you know, and I'm gonna come back off of what Jimmy just got done saying. At one point, they're gonna come back around here to approach this board for something somewhere in the formidable future. And with that being said, you know, I already watched this board do an outstanding job at what they did up on Golden Hill and how we were involved. We're invested in that at this point in with the jobs and the right jobs for the right, you know, the right health care, you know, and good caregiving, so to speak. And I believe that, you know, it's gonna make a full
I'll
circle.
support your view 100%. I will support you 100%, but I can't get behind pulling the bond.
Okay,
As far as
I
bad
understand that.
behavior,
I understand that.
I'm just one vote.
It seems to me though, this is a really good example of moving forward, especially with important types of businesses that serve the community, especially the health and well-being of the community, that when we do future pilots and other things with institutions, that we're really specific then about what they're providing as a service to the community.
Especially in the
Not only
healthcare stuff.
not only the business part of it, they need to be profitable, I understand that. If we didn't put any stipulations in the contract with them, I agree, I'm not sure how we could.
Well, it
do
wasn't us.
And
Yeah.
I think that we should just be really mindful about that when other people, any business.
You're 100% right. I think you could almost change your UTEP, especially when it comes to real quality of life projects like healthcare facilities. That's a given. And again, I can't agree with Rick anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's bad business, and it's not just limited to that. They haven't really been of economic benefit to a lot of providers up in this area, and I've heard that. You know, I mean, they're utilizing people to do work up there that's fine, but the local guy that's put time and effort into doing budget numbers and other things for them, they're not being utilized, and that's what's come back to me. And you know, I agree with you that bad business on Westchester Medical's part. There's got to be somewhere somehow that there can be, whether it's a joint of PP between the county and Westchester Medical, you know, with space that's out there that they can figure a way to do something.
I'm wondering if the chair and the chair would entertain an artfully crafted letter from our attorney to MC, just stating
I think when
some
you're
of the sentiment that's just been expressed by everybody.
I would entertain a letter from you, somebody who clearly
Well,
has
who
a.
am I? I'm only one member of the
No, but you know what,
The
you're
board
a
could
guy
sign
that,
it.
you know, I can tell you're invested in this. I don't need a form letter from an attorney.
But something that comes from the IDA to say, you know, if I was to write the legalese, I would like to bring to your attention that you currently have a bond at a better rate from the IDA. It presumes good faith on the part of you all, WMCA, and we, the board, believe that you've broken that good faith in the following fashion. Ding, 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 ding.
They are performing on the
I
job.
don't think you can attach the number they got on the bond, just the thought that, you know, you, by coming to us and utilizing us, we feel, as we've always felt, it's a community partnership.
Yeah.
And, you know, while we've done everything we can, to make you welcome, there's been a lot of oversight or overlooked as to the benefit here. And what more important than the health, you know, for a disease that touches everyone.
Yeah, I was thinking along the terms of something from this.
But I would stay away from the legal part of it, the moral end of it. I know what you wanna do, and you can write what you want, that's up to you. But I would stay away from the legal end of it, because I can tell you, being the longest member of this board, the only time we ever dictated on jobs and other things like that was Golden Hill.
So, Rick, do you think something, a letter you could draft and the whole board would sign off on it if everyone agreed to?
Yeah, I could draft a letter that just expresses our disappointment.
You know, you may, without bringing the bond into play in the letter, you may get a letter together from the board that, you know, once again, we're putting it right out there, you know, bad practice on WMC. But moving ahead here, you know, we will be looking into the best quality of care we can give in Ulster County, you know, that kind of stuff.
With
I will certainly expect a partnership,
Yeah.
not just in
That's
writing,
right.
but in.
I would have no problem with skipping the notion of pulling the bond,
I-
but just expressing our disappointment.
I
That
think you look better at the end of the day by doing that. You take
Because
the-
we don't wanna-
take the high ground.
we don't necessarily want to break whatever bonds still exist, right? But just to express our disappointment, in terms of
That's right.
what they did.
Yeah,
And when
and
your
Diane,
father tells you watch your mouth when you're a kid, I always look to Bill now before I say it.
Diane hit it right on the head too. You know, every time we come in here for a board, it's a learning tool. You know, it's a learning curve for
Thank you,
all of
Joe.
us, you know? We're picking up on it. Golden Hill's a perfect example
I
of
think
what
we
we're
learned
talking
a
about
lot
right
from
now.
it.
So,
How about I just draft a letter, I'll fly it by you since.
yeah, we'll all entertain it. Yeah,
Since
we'll
it
take
should
a look
come
at
from
it.
compliance, I'll draft a letter,
You know?
and if, we'll see if the compliance committee wants to forward it into the board.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
No,
They
there's
are
nothing.
underperforming in general. We did, in
Yeah,
good faith, we
that's
did look at them and say, okay, we understand, we don't wanna be punitive, but we did that, so
But,
they
but,
could think about that
but our
also.
problem with their underperformance also is that what was laid out in the original,
No, they are underperforming.
they're
In general.
underperforming, I understand that, but we gave them, on the last meeting with this entire board, we
We
gave
told
them
them
a
it was
green
okay,
light,
cause they
considering
would
what's
fix it,
going on.
and we know that they were going to fix it in the next year or so.
That is correct. I'm saying
What's
about
the
going
merger
back to
finish?
the original pilot and bond. You know, it really wasn't stipulated in there the services that they needed to render. That's something that you're moving ahead on, and when we're talking about Westchester Medical, maybe circling back to this board, that's gonna be a hot topic. I mean, that's gonna be a key part of moving ahead with whatever they wanna do for the
Do
future.
you remember when?
Yeah, when do they merge? Because they told us that they would have to be up in compliance once the merger happens.
The merge,
It's not fair, their bond is done in 2021.
yeah, we're almost out of the bond.
October of
Yes,
2020.
but I think they'll probably even be out of the bond by the time it's totally.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can't just add staff right
Yeah,
now,
because
right?
see, you've got two different projects. You've got the new addition on the hospital, but you also have the start of the renovation over at the Kingston Hospital campus on Broadway. So I don't know what the timelines are on that.
Okay, I'll put together a letter.
Sounds great.
The next one is,
Our holiday insurance.
the Holiday Inn Express, Lake Katrine, Darien Lake. I wanted to say something I realized, because we did not realize, I don't think, as a group, when we met with them. And you remember he was blaming the prior owner?
Yeah,
He's been an original owner. He was one of the owners with the other owner who's no longer part
so
of
there
it.
was a partnership, he's no longer a partner.
Yeah, but he was there, so he's acting like
So
he
he's aware of every number that was put down on the app.
He's acting
I
like
didn't
he didn't
realize
know because he was a new owner, but that's not the case. No, nobody knew that. But I went back and I looked at it, I went, wait a minute.
Because the guy that I dealt with was the other guy.
Yes,
So currently, Rose, correct me if I'm wrong, currently we have there's a 15-year pilot on this?
yeah, so if you go to page 15 now, also I forgot I did,
Yeah.
the letters, the emails back and forth with Ann Thor about what they were doing, finally up to date,
Mm-hmm.
is on page 23.
Right.
Sorry, I'm trying to flip through all these pages here. Too much stuff. And then I did have them in order of, we should have gone in order of the thing, like you were saying.
The agenda?
The agenda. Well, I was looking at the sheet, you know,
Ugly
the pages
agenda.
are going for. So now if you go to page, Darien Lake is page 18.
So Darien Lake and Holiday Inn Express is the same thing.
Yes, so that's the fun cheat sheet. I screenshotted and
Yeah.
grabbed pieces of their closing documents so we could look at it quickly and see how much they got in benefits. And then if you turn back to page 15, you can see what our current standard pilots are. So we have the option of changing what they got to something that we have now.
So
So
the
we're a
discussion,
10-year pilot, Mike, you mentioned 15, it's 10.
This one's 10, greenhouses is 50.
greenhouse is 15, I apologize.
Yeah.
So what do we currently have left on the hotel on Darien Lake?
They just started in 2016 or 17, would have been like the first year of 10. So they're only a few years in. They've paid zero tax until last year where they paid 25% tax. So they paid no tax this whole time and still underperformed that much. And you can see, Diane, you weren't here when we redid the UTEC. We changed, you see these percentages. This was our standard to have 0, 0, 0, 25, 25, 50. We changed it, and now like our standard 10, they would have started at something very different.
So a
So we
little,
could just push them to the new.
we could push them to the new lower percentage of 10 years, but just let's be transparent with the whole board. So a little fun fact here with this. They received $1.3 million from the state. No,
No, you want me to,
yes, please, so my notes don't get screwed.
it's okay.
Oh, I got the two.
You want the Inform Analytics?
Yeah,
Okay. I found the Inform Analytics study that was done because the IGA had apparently used it several years ago. When this study was done, the cost benefit analysis showed the benefits were gonna be $900,000 to the community, but it was gonna cost 1.3 million.
that's what it was, with 902 to 1.3.
So
So-
it was a backwards cost benefit
So-
analysis.
What the argument would be is instead of the jobs, it would be, would we even have approved this pilot? So,
But
you
if they
see-
had 27 jobs, okay, maybe
It-
that's
it
why
doesn't-
they did it. But you wouldn't have done it if they were that short on jobs, and the cost benefit analysis was backwards.
this wouldn't even,
Here's the other thing, when they came in to talk, we were looking at like job postings, we couldn't find any job postings out there for this.
They sent me their job postings, but they were only current, they couldn't prove, because they didn't have any record of what they had done, because she couldn't pull it from Indeed. I don't know why you wouldn't have invoices or have something from the last few years showing you were trying to hire people.
So we don't have that.
And they also told us flat out, those numbers were inflated. They said that themselves.
we have people, you know what, you gotta appreciate people's honesty that came before the board and said the numbers were inflated.
But
So-
the two groups that were before us, both groups, back to back,
Both.
gave us, they had a low projection of jobs and high. The pilots are based on the higher number of employees, and they both underperform and are actually hitting the lower range of what they thought their employment would be. So
Well,
they both overinflate, I mean, people
so
inflate.
the previous UTEC was
Post
scary.
high, get the numbers,
Yeah,
drive your pilot up,
yeah,
and then perform at the bare minimum
right,
to keep that high pilot.
yes,
And that's
That's what was
what
done.
happened
Yep.
here.
That was-
Yep.
This though, what like Rose is talking about now, you know, if the impact is at 1.3 million and the incentives are at 902,
Cost
it would have never made it to the board.
Even if they did perform properly.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be, and it seems to me we have two choices, and I'm looking at page 15.
Yeah,
We either tell them, guess what? You've got the 10-year pilot that starts at 50%.
Yeah.
And we plug it into the year that they would
And-
be. Or you've got the 10-year pilot, but it's under the new UTEP, which means for tax year 2020, I think, Rose, correct me if I'm wrong, your exemption would be 80%, and then next year it'd be 70%.
This one, so this is actually like, it's not 11-year, I don't want it to sound like they got an 11-year pilot, but because of when they closed, it was
Yeah.
October 8th. Then because of the way the tax year ends and the cutoff being March, like, this is an 11-year chart, so
Okay.
just take that when you're looking at it, yeah.
So,
So year one would be 2017.
okay, so year one would be 2017, and it goes down to 2026. So if I work backwards, 26, 25,
Yeah.
24, 23, 22.
So I wrote out the years on here. Year 2021 would be number 5.
Right.
So they would be at 60% or at 30%, depending on which pilot you choose.
Right.
To recommend.
You see that, Mike? So
I absolutely see
So
it.
it is a big difference, but I do think it's also very generous, right? Because you're not clawing back. You have the opportunity to claw back the
What they
benefits,
had.
so they could pay back taxes.
Right.
They could also just go back on the tax roll entirely.
Right.
And I think this is, so you can totally, you have multiple options here, and I think if you chose one of those options, I think it's generous. Even though they may not feel that way.
I would go, again, being
Go ahead.
a business person, I would go with the new 10-year pilot that puts them in tax year 5. They owe, their exemption is only 60%.
You would go to the better 10-year pilot?
You want the higher of the lower? Yeah?
Yeah.
The higher of the two?
So Rose is absolutely right. We could call back.
You could claw back, you could
That's a
throw them
big
back on the
deal.
tax rolls,
You
right?
could do that, you could put it back in the tax
Listen,
rolls.
we've
Could do all of
discussed this
it,
about,
which would be worse.
Or
Yeah.
you could give them just something that started at 50%, and then they'd only be making it 30%.
we beat this standalone hotel issue over the head with a baseball bat
Yeah.
with the last board. And this has always been the issue here. The projected numbers to get to that pilot, they inflate them every time.
Right.
And, and who are we to say they're not gonna provide 27 jobs?
Well, I think our experience has now been,
Well, you know what it is? This is pure documentation moving ahead for anything else that's a standalone.
I mean,
You know?
if they give you the low and the high, and we consistently know that they're actually performing once this is done at the low end, maybe we take somewhere in the middle as what we base the pilot, I don't know.
well, just on the go-forward basis, we may want to do that, but we may also want to say that hotels in Ulster County IDA, you only get at most a 5-year pilot.
There
That's-
You know-
If they even qualify,
Right.
they don't
Yeah,
always
that was the
qualify.
key, that's the key sentence, if you even qualify,
The
right?
only reason
Yeah,
this
that's
qualified,
actually
because it's a retail project, is because of where it is.
Right.
So it's in an economically distressed area, which allows the IDA to be able to do hotel.
Which
So it's-
brings us back to, how many hotels do you need to build in one economically depressed area for it no longer to be economically
Well,
depressed?
I don't know how it's,
I
how it's
understand.
How
done.
many do you need?
I understand what that part of the law is trying to accomplish, but I think one of the easy ways, and this is for, a month or two down the road, hotels get 5 years, that's it, no more 10-year pilots.
That's something we should review also as we
Couple
move
of
ahead.
other counties, that's how we do it. But anyway, I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, on page 15, we select the second one there.
When in doubt, choose B, okay?
Is that why, Rick? No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Choice.
on the test, let me think.
We have a motion on the floor?
Is that the
Second.
motion then?
I'll make a motion, and the basis for it is, we're trying to be the most reasonable and gracious to the applicant, or to the existing individual with the pilot, that has the pilot. But you are out of compliance,
Absolutely.
I'd second.
15-year penalty.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Rose, what we're, now, we have to bring this in front of the full board yet, okay? And this is gonna be all our recommendations before we get, and one of the things to streamline this was to not bring the applicant back in. We've had them in here several different times. This is something that, we already have everything we need in place to make a decision on this, so.
Because to negotiate with them
No.
in this form, it's not
Yeah,
gonna.
we heard what they had to say, we appreciate them coming for sure.
No, and you can appreciate everyone's circumstances and, but at one point, you've gotta put all your information in front of you and you gotta call it the way you say it.
But you do wonder, right, like if you can't find somebody, I feel like you have to pay more then. So what are you paying that you're not getting out? And they're busy, every time I drive by, the parking lot is full.
So Rose, in terms of the letter, just a suggestion, you can make it cut and dry, or you can actually build the case, which we could say.
Yeah, I would have to work with Joe Scott on
The
it.
form analytics suggests that you wouldn't even got it.
I agree
They had
too.
compliance for 4 years.
We'll get it to council and let council trim it up a little
But you
bit,
just don't wanna drop the bomb on them.
Mhm.
You wanna build up.
but,
Okay.
The next one is the Kinsley. As he did say COVID, however, I know from visiting, the reason they don't have employees is because they're under construction. The construction period has actually lasted 2 years longer than was supposed to happen. And Mike and I had talked about it, although it's not great that they're not up to date with what they're supposed to do, it's not actually hurting
no, it's not hurting the
Kingston
taxpayers.
because
Yeah.
their pilot didn't, it's not like their pilot was waiting until they got their C of O or anything.
So-
Pilot is running.
The pilot's ticking.
Did
So
they
listen,
realize,
we-
Rose, that they had 4 hotels, 4 properties? The pilot started in year X, whatever it was,
Yeah.
18, I think it was. It ends in 2028, regardless of when they open these
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, you're right.
Okay, they know that, right?
Yeah, the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Along those lines, hey, I am in the field of construction. Jobs are moving ahead every single day. We still have a sunset to build them, and they're getting done. Okay, it's come. I'm looking into a little bit. There's been a little bit of rumor out there that maybe some people are not completing the jobs over there because some people are not being paid on time. I don't, we're gonna, as a partner,
Slow it down.
with, that would slow me down.
Yeah.
As a
Makes
partner
sense.
with them, I believe,
That looks bad to us.
correct.
Well, it also is.
And now,
liability to
nobody's
us.
come forward to this board yet, but
How about we do this, Chair? Just a suggestion. So essentially, they're not paying their subs.
it's a possibility.
Possibly, we've
Yeah,
heard.
it's a possibility.
How about we do this? We can buy our documents, send in ourselves or our agents to
That's correct.
investigate. I recommend that we send in Loki Grill
I believe so.
and tell them,
Have them pay for it, I have to
I'm
ask
not
this
even
question.
going there.
I know, so we have to
We
figure out
have-
who's paying for that then.
Well, you know what? We charge it back to them, we add it to the bill, the ongoing bill, because I don't wanna not do this. The possibility they're not
Well,
paying.
our issue was like, what if this is true and the contractor files a mechanics lien?
That's correct.
We are on,
We're on the
like,
hook.
that's our
We're,
property.
we're included in that.
So what I'm saying, rather than delay as to who's gonna pay for Loki Grill, it's like, we'll pay and we're adding it to your bill, Kingsley. So I would like to see Loki Grill go in, sit down with, Mike's aware of it, somebody else had made me aware of it, kind of on the QT. But let them sit with members of this particular committee, give them the background, tell them what documents to look for, I'm sure they probably already know it. And are you paying or not? Ask them point blank, are you
So,
holding back payment?
Yeah, I'll have to ask Wilkie Grill if that's something they're capable of doing, I don't know if they normally look into payments.
If they're not capable of doing it, we'll do it in-house.
So
We'll
we
do
could
it ourselves.
Yep,
We'll do it in-house.
okay.
I've played
pretty good
one of
at it.
them. I've played one of them before.
I think I'd rather Wilkie Grill than Mike Ham,
I'm pretty good at it.
if I were them.
Let's just find out.
One other thing, so, I thought I had it with me in my notes, but I can't find it. We just, if everybody, is everybody aware of the dates on the openings and the final construction phases and what all this was supposed to take place with the Kingsley?
We did talk about it, I don't remember the date, I think we decided it was their construction, their sales tax exemption runs out, no, I think it's November 15th
Of this year?
of this year, because we gave
Yes.
them another extension, I wanna say in May, and they asked for 6 months. We've given them 2 or 3 extensions.
Sure.
So I was going to also shoot them an email and let them know, just a reminder, you cannot use it past this date.
Right.
Okay.
And I think we're all probably done giving them extensions.
Yes.
We've already given several extensions, Mike.
At least 2 that I remember.
Yeah, I recall at least 2.
So I think the letter, we'll need council's advice on this. I think the letter should go to them stating what we talked about today, which was, it's come to our knowledge that this might be possible, that you're not paying your subs. Second,
Which we are a partner with them.
Does
and
this
we're
need to go
partner.
to the board or no?
And we intend,
Huh?
Does that part need to go to the board?
No,
Just come, no, because it's just straight compliance issue.
that's correct, it's a
Okay,
compliance issue.
Okay,
so all the things
Yeah.
we talked about today, we're aware of this, we're concerned about that. The sales, tax exemption expires on whatever date it is, Rose. And we intend, first of all, to find out whether you're paying your subs, and here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna pay, we'll pay, Loki Brill, but we're gonna add it to your bill. It'll be in arrears, it'll be in accounts payable to us, whatever. But I wanna make
yeah,
sure
we'll
that
pay
you,
it, but we're billing them
I don't want Loki Brill,
on the hook for, yeah.
yeah, and I don't want Loki Brill to appear on your doorstep asking questions, like, as if the FDIC was coming in to close the bank. Let them know, here's what we're doing. And that may cause them, I wanna know,
Yeah, I
if
mean,
that's true.
Yeah, and it is relevant, because like I said, imagine if there's a
If it's not
mechanics
true,
lien, or
then
there's some
shame
kind of
on-
issue, and
Shame on us.
And,
At,
and they had also, they got points and they were before we had Loki Brill. But they got points for local labor, and we
Yeah.
definitely don't want people using local labor and not paying them. That's not the point of using local labor.
okay, so, yeah, because the schedule would be on page 16, right? So, 2020, 30 full-time equivalent employees, or the full-time equivalent. Total construction.
What page is it on, I'm sorry?
16. I was just looking up at the
Oh,
top.
that's HVKB, okay, got it, yep.
Okay, so that's a kid that comes with.
Okay, so we got that one down, all right? Where are we going, is it
Do you
agenda?
need a motion for that? No, right? Not.
No motion, just,
Okay.
we're gonna get that letter,
Okay,
okay?
so the next one is the greenhouses,
Okay, Audrey,
that's page 17.
uh-huh. So, even speaking with Rick and having the client, the applicant in front of, the client in front of us at the time, and, without drumming up all the minutes for that one, that was a lot. We all listened to the story, hey, you know what, I know I'm supposed to be paying X amount, but I'm paying 2 employees twice as much, therefore, I'm okay to go, and that's not how that works, and we're all aware of that.
And we also don't have proof that that's accurate.
No, we do not, we have not been supplied that proof either. So, that one, which earlier I thought it was the 15, but this one is the 15.
Yes.
I know I did speak to Rick on this too, also, we were talking about also, and he made it clear, the chair at that time made it clear to the client that, we would be moving to reduce that to a 10-year, from a 15-year pilot. So,
We could do that, or we could, if you remember, on the 15-year new UTEP,
the new UTEP, yeah,
on page 15, remember the old 15-year UTEP, the first 5 years you paid nothing.
yes,
The new UTEP for 15 years, it starts at 95 and it goes
and it
down.
reduces back down, right? Where is that
So
page? I
again, in
just
the
had
spirit of
Page 15 is the
page
new one.
15, in the spirit of, you get it, you're in business, it's a tough business.
that. Listen, I don't wanna, I'm not saying that we're out here we're not punishing anyone, we're not doing it here, we're being realistic in what they're coming to present us, and they're just, once again, inflated numbers, and they can't achieve the goals.
And he pretty much indicated that the numbers were.
He come right out and said it, it's in the minutes, so.
So I would recommend that we take the new 15-year charge, which is a significant increase in his tax liability. He
You
has a
think
tax.
keep it at 15 years even?
Yeah, I would.
Well, I'm curious, why would you keep
Well,
it?
because I think.
So readjust his current 15 to the new UTEP 15?
Yeah, I guess I'm feeling that we don't want the business to close because we've gone
Right.
to a 10-year, and a 10-year with a tax exemption that was,
Yeah,
it's all being squeezed into 10 years.
he's literally paying zero tax right now.
Yeah.
He will for the next few years, so that is gonna be a big difference.
That would be
Yeah.
a big difference,
Yeah.
right?
That
So
makes
by
sense.
doing it, gradually easing him into, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, he's paying zero right up until 22?
Yeah. Yeah. You'll need tax
Okay, and so where would 22 land on our,
I think it would land in 3 or 4, I
I
think.
think 19 might be your one, I gotta count backwards, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I don't know what they, we started with it.
14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 8. It's just so strange because New York State's cut off.
Mhm.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Year 1 was 2019. So this would be for 2021. They are at 0. And year 3 here would be an 85%
85.
exemption instead.
Okay, so he's paying 15%.
15% as opposed to the zero that he has.
And then the next
And
year
it's
he's gonna
still
be
not-
paying-
It's still not crippling his business, but at the same time, we're adjusting to the fact that the numbers got inflated and we're still trying to work with the client.
Yeah, in some
It's
ways.
not a huge difference, not to
It's
be
not,
nasty
I don't
here,
think
but
it would be.
year 3, no, he's at, I'm sorry, yeah, year 3 is actually only 80%. It's only a 5% difference if you went to the 10-year pilot.
Right.
So it's not a big difference if you put him on the 10-year, the better 10-year as opposed to the 15-year.
Yeah, I guess with the 10-year rows, it jumps by 10% every year, as
Yeah.
opposed to the 15, it jumps by only 5.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it boils down to 6 one, half dozen another. What can we do most aggressively to represent the people of Ulster, but also make sure that we're not putting people out of business? And by the way, this isn't our doing that they're where they're at.
No, it's not.
It's not our doing.
No, it's not.
And so
Yeah.
then what remains is the original number of employees, and they have, that still stays.
It was the original number of employees was inflated,
What
and
did
I'm
they
wondering
propose?
what the informed
It's
analytics rate.
very strange, there's
17?
hard to see on that page, this is related to the documents,
Oh, 9 full-time.
So 17, they're currently at 8?
yeah, 8.5 for, so, yeah.
What's the half guy look like? That's what I want to
You
know.
know
What's
how
the half guy
FTEs
look like?
work.
Yeah, so we leave the
Yeah, they're
FTEs
not
as they are, right? Just adjust the.
Do we have the informed analytics done?
And we also know that they changed their business model, so they're not just having trouble hiring.
No, and
They
he
shut
came back,
down the
he-
full-time
you know,
kitchen.
in the restructure of this pilot, it's gonna walk hand in hand with the restructure of his new business. So, I didn't know what you were doing there, Russ. I thought somebody was coming in with an axe.
Rose, do we have anything on the informed analytics for this guy?
I could look quickly. Things I don't wanna.
Because if the business model is to pay more people,
Sorry.
if his business model remains to keep the number of employees lower but paying them more,
It's
he'll
not
never
just
be
that though,
compliant, would he?
but that was his claim.
And so
That's not necessarily true, and he shut down his kitchen. They had a full-time kitchen for guests, they don't have that anymore.
But if that's really the case, and just playing this out, and we give him this new 15, then should we also base it, I mean, he's never gonna be compliant if he.
That's the
makes
problem.
the
How
FTEs
soon
the same.
before he's back in front of the board with another compliant issue? But then again, you know what?
I think
I
it's
share
just
the lottery
saying,
numbers with
But I
people
guess
like
what
that.
I'm saying is, are we setting him up again to not be
it's
compliant?
irrelevant. He would be, what we would do is change it and change his number for compliance,
Right.
I think, but it's also irrelevant, the old UTEP, or even the new one, the range is like, I'm making up the range, but I think it's like 5 to 20 is the 6 points.
I got you, okay.
So, like,
You know, Chair, we also have to consider, Joe Scott is gonna have to redo all these.
yeah,
I
they're
know.
gonna pay for legal fees, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
And in my mind, they pay for Joe Scott.
Oh, they do. They absolutely do. It's in the closing
So-
documents that way. So it
There's
is,
a little more of a rub.
it does make sense to be more lenient then.
You know,
That's a good point,
and
right?
you wanna know something?
That would be a $10,000.
At least, yeah, that's a good point. You're right. So yeah, you wanna be more lenient.
I think that revised
You
15-year-old.
don't wanna,
Yeah, you don't wanna burn.
you don't wanna,
No, I think the revised 15-year at that 5% is a lot more, it's a lot better for them to work with than, you know, nobody, we wanna run out there and recapture stuff and claw back and, you know, we have an opportunity to work with the guy, help him out a little bit, so.
and
That's
again,
it.
we could quarter it to that.
Yeah,
Rick, is that your motion?
Yes,
Okay.
you want me to repeat it, or
Rick,
you got the
motion
sense of
is
it?
to do a 15, the new 15,
The new
15
15,
year
yeah.
based on the new UTEP.
Second.
all in
For all
favor?
the reasons that we've spoken about in the real line. And if you could find the form analytics for us,
It's not, we don't have it.
you have one.
Okay,
And then, that's it.
that's it,
Woo, we got through it,
that's
guys.
it. Okay, new
Mike,
business.
before we leave the, Mr. Chair, before we leave the topic of all this, I would like to recommend that we consider, another change to UTEP. Yeah, I think it's minor, but hotels only get 5 years.
We have
Oh,
several
yeah.
changes that need to be made to the UTEP, I think.
Okay, so maybe, I know, that would be one to add to your list, right? I know you
Yeah.
had a few others.
We do, I think, but I think we were thinking we'll get through these and probably try to revisit maybe UTEP maybe sometime next year at this point.
Okay. And I guess that could be an exception, right?
There's just not enough time in the day.
No. So new business. So review current policy.
Go to audit, go to audit, go to audit.
Yep.
Have a motion to
I figured
move
that out.
everything to audit?
Don't you dare second, don't you
Before you
second.
do that, can we, on page 25, before we go to the policies,
Yeah,
That is part of the policy.
oh, all right, so
Yeah.
I'd like to make a recommendation on.
Wait, we're gonna get to that one.
Oh, all right.
No
So
extension
everything's
of
going to
credit,
order?
page
Oh, no, the
24.
char- oh,
Don't-
no,
Oh,
we
he was
said- yeah.
joking, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Nothing's going on yet.
Okay.
Page 24 is where we're starting.
yeah.
I don't see any need, I could.
I don't think there's anything to change on that.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cut and dry.
No,
No extension. Speaking of, having, seriously, you can't even imagine the amount of time trying to get a credit card.
what, still?
Because, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
We don't have mail that comes to our physical location. Lindsay says to the master, she goes, are you aware of what a P.O. box is for? So, we're working on it, we're trying. Okay, so nothing to change on that one, right?
Right. Now, Rick,
Go ahead, Rick, go.
All right, so on the org chart,
You're gonna change
I
this.
drew all of the possible changes, and I'll give it to you, Rose.
But basically, we should get rid of a box that has CEO/chair.
Agreed.
The org chart should reflect what it is today, so it should just say CEO.
that's correct.
And then, the chair should have a separate line connected to the board of directors. And the CEO and the CFO should be answering to the chair. I think
Chair and the board though.
Yeah.
I think, so Jimmy, like, for example, when I think about it, right, like Jimmy is the one that sets the agenda. And I do have to report to Jimmy if I wanna spend $1. But I also report to the board as a whole,
Okay,
not just the chair.
so dotted line to the board, I think that would be the appropriate, a dotted line to the board and a straight line to the chair.
And then the
And
CFO.
Diane, you're kind of an organizational expert, I don't know if
I think that makes a lot of
that
sense.
makes sense. And then the CFO should be a
more often than he would like, yes.
And the CFO should be a straight line to, I think.
A straight line to the chair, a dotted line, and then the chair to the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then get rid of executive director, we don't have one.
Yep,
And then staff and council go
goes
to
to the
the
CEO.
to the CEO,
The CFO goes to the
chair.
chair.
Okay.
Streamline. Okay, and then you're also a dotted line to the board, I think, right? The CFO?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I knew we had to fix this one. Did the rest of it make sense to everybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Do we need a motion to bring that to the board now?
Let's get a motion to,
I'll make a motion to bring the new organization chart to the board for approval.
Thanks. Thanks.
Aye.
all in favor, aye.
Thanks. This is a really standard,
This is right out of, this is like a textbook,
yeah, this is a very
and
standard.
we don't have any, well, I guess,
Talk
you know,
about
I looked at this, we don't have any
housekeeping.
property, but you know what, it also applies to the acquisition of any computers that we might need, that we
We
budget.
don't physically have any assets
We
to
don't have any.
dispose of, there are no assets.
We haven't bought any computers for you, we haven't done any of that, so it's really, it's just there, taking up space, but okay.
It's just a
important.
policy that we have to have.
Okay.
Well, that was great.
All right, let's get through this,
You
property.
didn't need to go to audit.
So- I'm okay with the way the property disposition.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
As the contracting officer language, everything?
Yes. I ran through it, I don't know, my good.
I was reading through it too. Just wanted to make sure, you know, we've kind of done some housekeeping. We forgot to change a couple titles and stuff, you know, and they had to fall back. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was.
We are supposed to have a contracting officer.
I know, but
So it used to be the, I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be.
who was it?
It was Randall.
So
And
the
I don't
chair
know
is
if that-
acting as the contracting?
I think because he was acting in his capacity as CEO, as the contracting officer.
Okay, so where?
So then we had assumed, I did talk to Joe Ariel about this, we had assumed then not just assumed, the CEO is, I think, based on the bylaws, the
Is
contracting
the contracting
officer.
officer.
So that's me.
Okay, so my thing in here, for clarity's sake, do we leave it as the contracting officer, even though that's what it is? Or do we change it over to,
So we could put both, just say like also, or in parentheses, the CEO, because it is in the capacity as contracting officer.
Because right now it's the chair and vice chair. On page 29, isn't it?
Where are you looking?
Page 29, it says the designated
Oh.
contracting officer for the agency.
So he was
is the
doing
chair
it
or
as the
vice-
chair.
Or the vice chair, so that would need to be.
vice
changed.
chair of any agency, all right, any of the
Yeah.
agency.
I could have sworn in the bylaws that's not what it said, because Joe, Ariel and I looked at that specifically, because I was asking who is the contracting officer then. I'm gonna share a bylaw.
I mean, that's the only concerns I had throughout the entire policy. You know, I just wanted to make sure we were defining the contracting officer, but in my haste,
So what's,
the last
the
sentence.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that part there yet. Because I could have sworn, but I know it was Randall, that's.
That makes sense in the rights
The designated contracting officer for the agency is the chair or any
or
vice
any
chair.
vice chair in the agency, page 29.
You know, I'm almost ambivalent to it, a contracting
Yeah.
officer's got a lot of work to do if we actually gotta go into
It is
contracts or
it
something.
is the chair. The chair shall have the authority to solicit, negotiate, and authorize contracts.
Okay, so it is the chair.
Okay, so we'll,
But,
Language is-
no, wait here, I knew I had this right in my
what do you
head.
got?
The chief executive officer shall also serve as the contracting officer of the agency, and as such, be responsible for the disposition of property of the agency and the agency's compliance with the agency's property use and disposition guidelines. So
So-
it is the CEO, it's the
Oh,
contracting
okay, so
officer, chair, board.
what's the conflict with the last sentence now?
I know.
Is it just the designated contracting officer for the agency shall be the CEO?
So
So,
it says the chair and the CEO.
Well, it doesn't say they are it doesn't say the chair is the contracting officer, it says they have the authority to sign. I understand, but it says they have the authority to sign contracts and
I
negotiate.
think we just wanna be correct.
But
That's
then the
different from-
CEO is like conflicting,
That's
or
different
the, I'm
from-
sorry, the bylaws are conflicting.
Yeah.
The bylaws need to be changed or not, well,
what?
it should be changed.
You
But,
know what, Rose? Not to, I'm not a lawyer, but for a moment, that's different contracting officer versus the authority to
Yes.
actually sign it.
yeah, so CEO, this is wrong,
This is wrong.
yeah, this should be the CEO.
This should be the CEO.
So the designated contractor, I don't even know that it needs to say who it is in this policy, because it's in our bylaws who it is, I don't know.
But will it be?
It's a redundant sentence
It's
that's
okay.
wrong, right? So
It's
should I
just
just change it and say it's
Just
the
change it,
CEO?
if it's redundant and correct, it doesn't hurt, if it's redundant but it's incorrect.
Yeah,
So just change it to the CEO, because this is
Got
wrong.
it. Oh, do you need the motion for that?
Yeah,
Thank
motion
you,
to
Dan.
So
approve
moved,
the
I think that
changes.
is,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, whistleblower, I read through this, it's a great one. And the only addition that I can think of, and I don't want to say ask the attorneys for any changes they thought, but the addition, it doesn't deal with, it deals with fraudulent or dishonest conduct.
Right.
I didn't see anywhere where it dealt with harassment, staff harassment, creating
Do we
unsafe.
not have a harassment policy? A separate policy on harassment?
You know, sexual harassment, creating a
No.
unhealthy
Hostile
work
work
Man,
environment.
I
Hostile
don't,
work.
I thought we had it.
Yeah, we don't have a sexual harassment policy of any kind either.
Maybe that should be a separate policy in the
Well, we
whole,
should-
Rick.
And I think we should probably just adopt Ulster County's
Yep.
harassment. But I think some mention has to be made of.
You think, that- yeah, but with the whistleblower, it's just that, it's a protection on dishonesty and fraudulent activity. Should the sexual harassment policy be a new policy added on its
You know, I
own?
don't know. I
understand.
Yes, yes.
I believe so.
Needs to be
Okay.
separate. There might be something.
I have them separate,
The code of
most of
ethics.
my contract
Do you?
agreements,
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a
that's
separate,
separate.
that, this way, when you're signing a company, a policy or a handbook or something you're signing off, you know that you're reading that separate policy, and it's usually lengthy at best. Actually, it's accompanied by some classroom time.
So, yeah,
It's
Yeah.
required.
so what we
Temporary
have
jobs.
missing then is, we have a whistleblower for fraudulent activity, but we need a harassment policy.
Yes, we need to
Sorry,
add
it's
in
less
a harassment
than
policy.
And in the harassment policy, you need to have
I
something
think
here about
Rick is
whistleblower.
concerned about that.
Yes, on the
So
back end.
I wonder if there could be a way to just do a harassment policy as opposed to just sexual harassment,
Yeah.
although it is obviously
Including that, whether we.
because she was saying like hostile work environment,
Yeah.
et cetera.
That was the word I was looking for, hostile work environment.
Yeah, you can have subparts to that, which will cover all grounds on
So,
harassment.
Rose, I do think, I think we do.
Does that, now, where, is that gonna come through, that'll come through us for policy, a creation of,
Yeah, so I would
So-
create something that you guys are asking and then we can bring it to the board next
there
meeting.
you go. We'll move that over to creation, job, policy creation.
There's
Okay.
plenty of examples of that, Rose, online, I'm sure the county has.
Yes.
Did you read all the pages to that one? Everybody take a look at that?
The whistleblower?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read that. Pretty
Yeah, that one's pretty intense.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion to,
I'll make the motion.
The accept it as is?
As is.
Accept as is, and a recommendation to add a policy dealing
Create.
with harassment, workplace harassment, sexual harassment, hostile work environment, all of the above.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Where are we at? That was it for that, for review of current policies.
Yay!
Okay, so we have policy creation.
Yeah.
Let's get to the big one right away, just in case, so the FOIL creation.
Yeah.
We asked, Rose asked, council to, on open government to get some kind of FOIL information together.
This is his, policy, he wrote this, so wow.
This
I'll
is it right
rephrase
here?
that one.
Joe wrote this?
he gave me this policy.
Okay.
I do think there should be at least one change to this. It says that the agency has appointed its counsel, Joseph Ariel Esquire, FOIL officer. I think it should say that the agency has, or appoints its board counsel and not name anybody specifically.
Yeah.
That's great.
I
Yeah,
don't think you name somebody in a
we're not
policy.
naming anybody in that.
No, you don't do that.
No.
Just-
I agree.
Just
Yeah,
for-
we don't want Joe to come back and tell us he doesn't wanna do it.
Okay, so has appointed its board counsel as FOIL officer.
Correct.
So the issue with this, and I know I brought it up in the board meeting, was I think that it doesn't specify in here exactly because this is just general language taken off of the Committee on Open Government.
Yes.
My issue is, I don't think it's necessary to charge somebody if they call and ask for one small detail, right? Like I have no, and Bill knows, I have no issue if somebody calls and asks, but the issue is, if it's a 3,000 page FOIL request, it's just not fair to the agency to
You're-
pay thousands of dollars
No.
and be out for something like that.
So let's just, Rose, you would know best, let's just give a number.
I was
Under
thinking,
10, we don't care.
that's
50,
exactly what I was thinking, under 10, whatever, I don't care,
Yeah,
you
you've
don't
gotta,
need to
you've
talk.
gotta script it right out, take it from a guy that foils people, okay? And I'm telling you, if you don't, I've showed up before where they went, yeah, here's your stack, $480, please. And I went, okay. And I went, all right, And
That's
then,
fair,
I mean,
yeah.
so much stuff was redacted that I only needed 5 pages.
Yeah.
So, if foils are just that, they tell you, there's no form, you tell them exactly what you want and handpick it, but if we set, up to X amount of pages, and that's something that we can handle.
So I think
But-
that needs to be added in here, cause he didn't do that.
So I
That's-
trust your experience, Rose, as to what should be just a freebie.
I would say, I
In-
think 10 is
In the
probably
real world that I live in, and everywhere that I go to foil, it's 25 cents a page.
on every
Whether
page,
it's
even
one
page
page.
one.
It don't matter, every place that I
don't
hit.
think, I don't have an issue for one page.
Yeah, but your problem is, it's not only, and
It's
I
hard to-
understand,
it's hard to find
the looking up of information or anything like that, I understand, that shouldn't be, you get that. But you wanna know
It's
something?
not just 25 cents a page though, and this is something I feel like we should take, it's also you can charge for time.
Oh, you can charge the time.
So I think we should be charging
And I'm
time.
not paying $485 for a document this thick, I'm paying for somebody's time.
Trying to find the
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessary to charge somebody for one, if they ask for
Let's see what I have.
one number, for one figure, I don't think it's necessary to charge them $100, cause that's our lowest paid staff member technically. $100 plus 25 cents for one page, I don't think that's necessary. I think it is necessary when it gets abusive.
Well, it gets overwhelming. I wouldn't want to call foils abuse.
It is when they're not for any reason.
Why don't we just, I understand what Mike is saying, 10 pages and under, we don't charge for. And we only charge for labor, in excess of, pick a number, 50 pages, 100 pages. When you get to 100 pages, you charge
That's
half.
still extensive though, Rick, that's still a lot of time. For me to
Well,
do,
that's what I'm saying, when you get to 100.
even if I did 100 pages, because it's not about printing it,
Right,
that's timely, it's finding it. So I would tell you that last foil, it was 3,000 pages, I bet was at least 20 hours.
alright, so how would you then charge for that?
So I'm gonna read you what I just did not more than a week ago. And this is what they sent back to me after I requested. They said, by making this FOIA request, the requester shall be considered to have agreed to pay all applicable fees up to $25 unless a fee waiver has been granted. If the department estimates that the search costs will exceed $25, you shall be so notified. Such notice shall offer the requester the opportunity to confer with the department personnel with the object of reformulating the request to meet the requester's need at a lower cost. The request shall not be processed further unless the requester agrees to pay the estimated fees. Okay? So, I did it, I was very happy that they offered that up to me, because I notified them and I modified my search, and it brought it down from like $300 to like $160. So I was happy for that, you know? But, I mean, there's a whole different approaches on this, and nothing's set in stone.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Rose, I agree, under 10 pages, just do it. Over 10 pages, you charge 25 cents.
We can create our own policy on that.
How would you charge?
What's the
client?
fee schedule?
I would probably even do 5 pages, because most
Okay.
simple foils are under 5 pages.
Okay, correct.
So 5 pages, no fee for anything. And I think over that,
Like how long does it, like, if an hour, I'm trying to think of like an hourly rate, so if it takes you an hour to do how many pages on average, you can try to break down.
it's hard to know because it's not the printing of the
We're
pages,
talking
like,
like time too.
I know, so the issue was trying to find them all in my
Right.
inbox. So that's the issue, is I don't know how long it would take to find each page because it depends on how.
So in there, you could put some gray areas, something pretty much where, you know, you will be subject to X amount of fees,
So
you know?
if you said, for example, the 3,000 pages took 20 hours, that's an estimate in my head, by the way, not
Right.
looking it up.
So we're trying to go, like,
I
you
know.
can guesstimate how many like,
You're never gonna recoup all your hourly time on that,
No,
you know,
but you don't want.
if you can crank out 50 pages in maybe an hour, then you can start to play around with it.
Well, you also don't need to put the dollar amount. You literally just have to put in the policy.
That's what I'm trying to do to help figure out that.
We're trying to create the dollar amount.
Trying to figure that out, and figure out what to put in the policy.
67 cents per page in time
on 3,000.
on 3,000. Yeah,
Because
67
you
cents
said-
Now,
per page.
Let me
Plus, you can add the 25 cents.
Let me ask you something. What I just read to you, which, once again, I was real grateful that I got it, because at the time, they were printing out like 1,500 pages, and they notified me. Is that something along the lines that maybe we should include in what we get for a FOIL request? And let that, the person foiling us also be aware that, you know, I would imagine, I mean, I'm regular at it. I know what to ask for, you know, sometimes I'm on the fly and maybe I screw up. But I mean, your ordinary person, you know, they've been getting 5,000 pages, if that's what it demands, you know what I mean? I mean, and what do? You get that all ready, and when they come to pick it up, you turn around and go, $500, please?
So how about we do this? How about we say, over 5 pages, it's 25 cents a page, and we reserve the right to charge for staff time, once the amount of time exceeds an hour, and that will be at an hourly rate of $100 an hour, something like that. And you want to make it specific. You don't want to make it so loosey-goosey that they can't establish.
At the same time, you don't want to not get people the information.
Right.
So,
No.
We don't
No,
want
it's
to
not-
make it,
yeah,
we don't want
absolutely.
to
I
make it
think
onerous.
foils, I think it's
Yeah.
important that people can foil. I do. I think that's really important.
now me, that guy at Foils, and I hand the bill over to my boss,
Yeah,
I think the first 5,000 pages should be free,
yeah.
you know, but.
But you can see, I mean, it's if people, it is abusive. People have done it abusively.
No, they do.
Doing
And-
it,
and-
actually looking for information, that's not the issue.
But you'll get an attack group, and what they'll do is
Well, I
be
think-
frustrated with an issue, and they will line 20 people up to FOIL request the same exact information of 150 pages over and over and over. and
Well, I
over
think
again.
we did have one.
So-
Yes, we did, and I have another one from the
Where-
same group.
They're looking to see if they can find something.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think the idea of, hey, it's gonna be 25 cents over 5 pages, and name a number, over an hour, over 2 hours, we reserve the right to charge hourly, whatever, $50 an hour, $100 an hour?
$100 an hour is the lowest.
Something.
Okay, this is what I got sent from the last group. So search and review rates, I didn't even know this was in here, I didn't read that one. The categories of personnel that may conduct searches and reviews and the estimated hourly costs based on the average current salary rates, including benefits, for those categories are, which is what you're looking
So
for
they
at the
lay it
bottom.
out.
Administrative clerical, it says $21 an hour. It says professional, 41, executive, $76 an hour. Records shall be duplicated at a rate of, this one says 15 cents a page. Okay?
Yeah, I think the law is 25 cents.
Yeah, like I said, I guess it depends on,
Yes, 25 cents
Yeah.
for photocopies.
so there's that, you know?
So, right.
And then then the law also says the amount equal to the hourly salary attributed to the lowest paid employee who has the necessary skill required. But it's irrelevant, all of your staff is paid the same
And
rate.
it also says search and review costs will be calculated based upon the pay scale of the person conducting the search or review. Duplication costs are assessed for only those documents that ultimately are released in full or denied part, blah, 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 it just goes on and on about generic stuff.
Well, listening to that one, we'd be probably hard pressed to say we can charge $100 an hour. I get why you would suggest.
But the reason they do it that way is because the law says you have to do it to the lowest paid employee.
So that's,
That's why they list it out, so that you know if they have to go to a higher paid employee,
Correct.
that's what it is.
but in your case, it's the same rate.
Yes.
So I think we might have to do something like the going rate.
You want me to print this out?
I don't know, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree respectfully, because you're paying for it. The IDA still has to pay for it, right? So you're still eating the cost of 20 hours of staff time at that amount of money.
I'd be hard pressed to get them a bill for $2,000 for staff time, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't for the last one.
I mean, that's pretty tough.
Right, but they also know what they're asking when they foil what they're foiling.
And I get why you're suggesting it too, because we're paying you in 20.
You know, what we're talking about there, like $100 an hour, and we're talking about up to X amount of pages for free, okay?
There's only one foil, I think, in the last year that this would even apply to, right?
Mhm.
No other foil was like this. And, it will be going forward also. I have another one.
So Rose, why don't we, group, why don't we do this? Why don't you get a hold of Joe Scott and say, hey, look, here's what we're coming up with, $100 an hour over an hour's worth of work. And first hour you get for nothing, right? That's the cost of doing business. But after that, Joe, will this stand up $100 an hour when we hear
I asked,
21, 51, and 71?
yeah,
Or
Joe
41, 71?
Joe Ariel, yes. Joe Ariel said yes.
It would hold up.
Because you're following the law.
We're following the law. The law.
I just think, oh my God.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be open government.
It depends on how much you wanna be on the hook for as the board. Like if the board feels
Well, how many of
that's
these
the
do we
cost
get?
of doing business and you only wanna do,
How many of these do we get?
you wanna
Financially,
recoup
how many?
50% instead of 100%, that's your prerogative for sure.
Well, here's
Well,
the,
that's one way of getting it, that's a good idea. Instead of it being 100, we do it, we state that the rate is 100, but we discount it by 50, something like that, make it 50. That's reasonable.
but we still have to list our rates.
Yeah.
We still have to list our rates. We can't set 100 and then negotiate for this guy and then this guy and this guy.
No, we have to set, we have to write it down.
We'd have to set it. And based on the other question you asked, how many of these do we get? I think the answer is right around the corner. What other contentious projects do we have coming along? You know, so
I think it's important to have the policy in place.
the policy's gotta be put in place, you know? We gotta have it, because
No, that question was, how many times are we gonna be charging somebody an exorbitant fee?
That's not often, no. Or
No,
maybe
I-
it would deter people from just foiling for without
I don't,
reason.
listen, you don't wanna hold a gun on people's head to come here for information.
No,
You know, but at the same time, as a board, we still have to realize that when you have a pattern of, be it whatever group coming our way that is requesting the same information just from a different person, on and on and on and on
I
and
have
on,
nine
and
so
it's
far this
almost,
year.
it's almost gets to the point where you punish a municipality or anybody else you're requesting information from, you know?
It can get very expensive.
It can. And, you know, I'm not saying that's what's happening to Rose, I'm just saying, you know, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
If you were to get, you know, just based on your experience so far, a normal request, what is it normally? Is it average? Like, it takes an hour, is there no such thing? I'm trying to, like, if an hour is pretty reasonable.
I don't think they're even usually an hour.
Like, the average Joe Schmo who might honestly just want to foil could get an hour.
You know, Rose has
I
got,
would say maybe 15 minutes is
Yeah.
like,
I'm
if
looking
it's
at
a
the CEO,
reasonable-
and the CEO is wearing,
Right.
she's wearing 5 different hats, you know, because also at the end of the day, she still has another job that she's doing also. I can tell you that I had a municipality that was very much prepared for me to come their way. And you know what they said? Please, just tell us. They go, you're inundating this office. It's overwhelming. And they had 20 people in there to handle this. They said it's overwhelming.
no, I also usually will answer FOIL.
It's-
If I can, I will answer them that day, but some of them aren't that
Some
simple.
may take them, a clerk maybe takes them 25 minutes. Other than that, I've waited 15 days for them.
So maybe Diane's approach is,
Just the
I think
first
where you
hour
were
is
going.
free,
The first hour is
and
free,
they pay for the 25
and
cents.
then after
a
that,
page.
we set the rate at $50 an hour.
But what do we do if it's the first hour free with 25 cents for each copy then?
Yes.
Right, for the first hour
After
free.
the first 5 pages.
I think everything's gotta come, every page
And then
should
after
come with a
that,
price.
it's $50 an hour or something. Because on average, most people
Well,
are not.
again,
If
listening
you
to
put,
my
my other point
20
We're
though
already
on
given
that
a-
though,
71.
is what is it gonna cost for me to collect the 25 cents? Right?
Okay,
That's
there's,
not reasonable.
well, you know what, well, I'll tell you what it costs you, it costs the 25 cents, is they got, you know, we're not sending it out, and we're not handing it over to you. Let's put it this way, I've had it in my hands, and they had it in their hands, and I went, what's the problem? They go, where's the check? And I went, oh. You know, it'll be right here on the desk, come on back in, you know? So,
But, and now if the press called and had a question, and I don't think it makes sense if it's something that they have to foil, that they would have to really write a check and mail it in for 25 cents?
we're actually in luck, because Bill knows everything, we don't worry about Bill foiling.
I'm only as good as the information I get.
That's
Bill
it, good,
foils.
good answer,
Bill
Bill.
foils.
So
If
Bill,
you really want me to have information correct, and
That
Rose
you're-
will attest.
I agree. I
we do want
agree.
correct information.
No,
So
so
Bill,
I just don't think it makes sense to charge 25 cents if somebody calls and asks one minor thing. I don't have a problem helping them, and I know the board, I know not everybody
Rose,
should need
then let's
So,
set,
Rose, the first 5 pages is free.
there you go. I don't care if you go, would anybody be opposed to the first 10? If
No,
it's 5,
let's make
I
it
thought,
easy.
there you
Go
go.
crazy.
Free, anything
10
over
is
that's
fine.
25 cents,
Yeah.
and
10
then
is
it's $50 an hour after the first hour.
First 10 is free.
Here you go.
So Bill, make sure you have some extra change in your pocket.
No, he's fine, he's always under 10 pages, that's why I like that.
I asked for electronic files, and that's totally different.
Yeah, I know, but it could still count for time, if
Okay, so
you don't.
Diane, why don't you, do we have to motion this? We have to?
You want a motion to move this resolution with the changes we made to the board, right?
All right, I've moved to pass the FOIL policies with the changes that we discussed on the fee schedule.
Rick, you second?
Second, yes, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to circle on time, we have to do CRC pretty quickly after this.
Okay.
Do you wanna do let me see real quick, the retained job? Quick,
On page 40.
Yes.
Can we end
Yeah,
it
let's
there?
get the retained jobs, that was,
and then we'll,
Yeah.
you got everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
It's important to me because if new projects are coming in,
Yeah.
we need to have a policy defining what, or this has to be added as a definition somewhere, what we consider as routine job. We had a project that came before us last year that said, well, I'm retaining jobs simply just by being here. And that, we said, no. Thank you,
Take
Bill.
care.
See you, Bill.
So we
See you later, Bill.
want so there is nothing that we could find that somebody else uses for a policy on retained jobs. What we found was the SBA's definition, and I kinda think it matches what we're going for anyway, this is,
This is spot on.
yeah, right, I thought it was
This
exactly what we
is
were looking
spot
for.
on, this. You know, defines jobs retained as jobs that otherwise would be lost to the community if the project was not done.
It's exact-
Must be able to reasonably show that such jobs would be lost and cannot count all existing jobs as being retained if they were not being at the risk of being lost. Boom.
Sound good? I mean, I'll change I put the ellipse because I was taking literally verbatim, but like, you get, that's the gist, and I think we just write it nicely. And
think
that's our policy, right?
Absolutely.
Passes the smell test.
How do you like, is everybody,
Simple.
Cool, cool, cool.
okay? Can we get a motion to accept the policy for retained jobs?
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I did too.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, Diane, this is literally spot on for what we told the project last year.
That's great.
And we-
That's great.
And this was something I think Scoofus has brought up too. This was an issue that Senator Scoofus has had with projects coming in saying, with Medline.
He actually, he brought it up
Yeah, it
right
was a
there.
real issue for Medline also, so.
He brought it up right there.
We didn't bounce anything to audit. Thank you.
Nothing's going to audit.
Jeez, we have.
I have can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion
the
to
governance?
adjourn Governance committee meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, what do we got? The
CRC, real quick.
CRC.
Oh, can you stop the recording? And then we have to start again for the.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh. Yeah, I gotta go soon. I have a massage for it.